What's good, YouTube? Dom Staven Sports Cards here, back with another video. I've had a hectic week, but I've been trying to bang these out for you guys. I was able to get my VR in for Ground Chuck on time, celebrating 406 subscribers. I was also able to show off my 1952 Mother's Cookie pickup, which was really cool. And if you don't know that set, definitely check out my last video. I told you that I had a bigger video coming up at the end of the week. I finally had time to get all the cards together and show off what I picked up this past weekend for the Plainville card show, which in my opinion is the best card show in the state of Connecticut. The card price hasn't really moved. I've still been getting the same great deals, but I went there. It was $2 to get in instead of $1. And from the dealers that I know told me that they upped the table price as well to set up there. So definitely some interesting things going on with the hobby. I hope that doesn't affect the show going forward. It was still packed, tons of people spending money, great deals all around, and I picked up a lot of great stuff for the collection. So without further ado, let me get into the cards. A lot of you don't know this, but I told some people in the community that in late June, early July of this year, I acquired a large lot of 1965 Topps Commons, a third of which were high numbers, and I thought it was for a crazy good deal. When I averaged it out, it was under 20 cents a card. And through the hobby, I thought about maybe taking them to the National and trading them for a Hall of Fame card or selling it as a starter set. But 1965 Topps has a special place in my heart. The pennants with the colors, it just screams vintage Americana. And my good friend Jake, Legends Never Die, he's a big set guy, a big raw cards and binder guy, kind of gave me the final push that I needed to say, okay, I'm going to do this set. Because he set me up with the checklist on Google Sheets, and I realized that I was almost 40% of the way there. So when I got to the show, I went up to my good buddy George, who has tons of vintage singles, mid to high grade, with my checklist and grabbed some cards that I didn't have. So these are all new cards to the collection. I picked up 57 from him. Some really nice cards. Jim Cott was the one Hall of Famer. But in this set, I don't have the big boys. I don't have Mantle, Mays, Aaron, Koufax, Roberto Clemente. But I do have all the Hall of Fame rookies. So I feel like this is going to take some time, but it's a set that I love a lot, and I do believe that everybody that collects cards should do a set at some point. And this is kind of fell into my lap, and I'm going for it. It'll be one of my big collecting goals for 2023 to finish this set. Hopefully I'll be getting some of the bigger Hall of Famers at the National or through some fellow YouTubers. But was super stoked. Got a great price on these. I usually don't love spending my money on common players very often, but these are all pretty sharp. No big creases, no paper loss, no writing. So when I flip through this set in a year or so, everything will just be visually appealing. I don't really care about the centering on the non-Hall of Famers as long as everything else is aesthetically pleasing. But I'm assuming this set's going to be VG to excellent. Nothing to blow you away, but something really awesome that I'll be looking at for a long time. So if anyone has any advice on doing a vintage set, definitely leave it in the comments below. I know Tony, Psyched on Baseball Cards, has been chugging along on this set, and between Jake's guidance and seeing all the set collectors set up at George's booth, it kind of just clicked that, hey, I should just be getting these now while they're affordable and plugging them away in my spreadsheet. 57 new ones. I'm now halfway there, 50% of the way with the set. So over the next couple months and the next year, I'm hoping that I can get that other 50% done and over with. 1969 Globe Imports, Orlando Cepeda, 10 of Hearts. I had never seen one of these, but it was funny. The dealer that I actually bought the Bob Feller Dixie lid from for $30 a couple months ago actually had this in a random slab box. And it's a mint 9 for a 1969 card. I understand it's not as condition sensitive as a bigger card, but mint 9, and he had a $10 price tag on it. I didn't even say, would you take 5? I just handed over my $10 and got a Orlando Cepeda slab from a set that I didn't have. So that's a really cool pickup for the PC. I found this 1970 Topps Frank Robinson. The corners are real soft on this one. Some dings for sure. But the centering's really good, and this is a high number card in 1970. I could not find a single one at the National. I was asking everybody with stacks of 1970 Topps cards, and nobody seemed to have it. And this card can be pretty expensive, being a high number in the set, so it's probably a placeholder, but I really like that version of the card, so it might just be my 1970 Topps Frank Robinson for the long run. Before I even walked into the show, there was a few guys set outside in tents just because that's how many dealers show up to this show. And this guy had a ton of great stuff in his showcase, all the Topps and Bowman stuff that you expect to see. But he had a few cards that you don't see very often, and worked out a deal on them. I found this 1970 Ovenka Luis Aparicio. It's a checklist for the Zulia team. So this is a Venezuelan league team that Luis Aparicio was on. For those of you that don't know, Luis Aparicio is the first and only Venezuelan player currently in the Baseball Hall of Fame. He will be joined by Miguel Cabrera in a few years, but really cool piece. I love the colors on it. The pink and the blue really pop. And it doesn't have like any creases or big problems on the front, which can be really condition sensitive with Venezuelan cards, especially these Venezuelan league cards. On the back, it was definitely glued into an album, but that's very standard when it comes to any overseas issues, honestly, from that time period. That's just how they would save them. They would glue it in like pictures and newspaper clippings. And he had it marked at $40, which wasn't a bad price, but because of the other cards that I bought from him, I was able to get them down to $25 on this one, which was a screaming deal for the collection. Really happy to own this. I have some Topps Venezuelan cards, but this is my first Venezuelan league card of the great Luis Aparicio. But the real thing that caught my attention before I included the Luis Aparicio was he had some 1971 Milk Duds. And I bought a couple at the National, Willie McCovey and Tony Perez. They're tougher cards. They were on Milk Dud boxes in the early 70s, so a lot of them got cut out or got thrown out, and you don't see the boxes very often. Even at the National, I only saw a handful of complete boxes from this set. You just don't see them a lot. If you look on eBay, you'll find them, but people kind of name their price, even with the common players. And he had them fanned out, a lot of them. And I decided to make a play on the whole thing, just because you buy them when you see them. 1971 Milk Dud Dennis Menke. Don't forget Slowpoke. Holloway's Milk Duds. These are just so cool. He was an all-star in 1970, the year before, for the Houston Astros. I got this Dave McNally, who won 24 games the previous year in 1970 for the Baltimore Orioles on that great pitching staff with Jim Palmer. Jim Perry, the brother of Hall of Famer Gaylord Perry, who won a Cy Young the year before in 1970 and was a 3-time All-Star in his own right. Really cool pitcher. And a 1971 Topps Jim Catfish Hunter, the big one. Pitched a no-hitter in May 8th, 1968. Just so cool to own a Hall of Famer with the complete box. This is a huge pickup for the PC. I absolutely love these. They're not in perfect condition, but considering how old they are, and like I said, a lot of them would get cut out or thrown out, crumpled up. It's really awesome to have these in pretty nice shape. I'm going to take that Menke and put it in like a cube to display it as the full box, I believe. But Jim Hunter, look at that young catfish right there. 5-time World Series champion, just an absolute stud. Super stoked to add this to the collection. You just don't see these, and I was able to make a great deal on the group of them with this 1970 Ovenka, and it was just really awesome to make a deal there with this guy Michael, who I didn't realize until he gave me his PayPal information that I bought from him before on Facebook. So we had that business working relationship. I think that's part of the reason he gave me such a great deal on these cards. So thank you, Michael. I appreciate the deal, and these cards will be huge representations of these sets in my PC. So really appreciate the deal there. I don't know what year this is, but I believe it's from the 70s. Al Kaline, looks like a strip card. On the back, it has a little bio about him. Really neat card. I picked it up for $2, so I figured even if it was newer than I thought, not a lot of money lost there. So if anyone knows what year this is from, please let me know. Love the oversized stuff. And got this 1980 Topps of George Brett. I love the old KC uniform. No pine tar on the bat there. And 1980 was his MVP season, so really cool pickup there for $1. And I went up to my guy, who I get tons of great deals on Hall of Fame relics and autos from. Fellow Red Sox fan, and I picked up this beauty from 2004 Upper Deck Sweet Spot, numbered to 276. Tom Seaver, game used pants, and the certification on the back here. I mean, like, you have received a Tom Seaver game used pants trading card from the Upper Deck Company LLC. On the front of this card is an authentic piece of pants worn by Tom Seaver in an official Mets Major League Baseball game. We hope you enjoy this piece of history as we at Upper Deck continue to keep you as close as you can get. I love the color on that. I don't know how they were playing those hot summer days in these wool uniforms, but just super cool to have a Tom Seaver relic in the collection, especially one from his Mets days. I don't think he should have ever left that team. You see his famous pose there that is immortalized outside of Citi Field forever. Really cool pickup there. And I also got this. This patch is pretty plain, but I loved the format of this Flair Greats relic. The red and the tan with the black and white image. It just looks so crisp. Johnny Bench, I didn't have a relic of him in my collection. Probably the greatest catcher to ever live. This card contains a piece of authentic game-worn jersey by Johnny Betch, catcher for the Cincinnati Reds. The certificate expressly warrants the authenticity of this piece of game-worn jersey on the front of this card, signed by the Vice President of Fleer and Skybox. So, really cool there. Classic numbers, got the 5. And I had a hell of a haul. This was a great show for the collection. I got a little bit of everything. Basic tops, smaller cards, oversized, overseas, complete boxes. It was just an amazing day for the collection. I appreciate you guys for tuning in all the way till the end here, pushing 16 minutes. Hope you guys enjoy your weekend and have a great one. Peace.